recent article on what happens to Marco Rubio's Senate seat. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Here's what happens to Senator Rubio's seat if he becomes Secretary of State and who could replace him. Okay, so if you scroll down, whoever DeSantis appoints to serve until 2026 is eligible to run. Okay, DeSantis can appoint whoever he desires. It's right there. DeSantis can appoint whoever he desires to fill the seat, including himself or his wife, and many names have already surfaced as potential replacements, barring last-minute change of heart from Trump. All DeSantis or all Gaetz needs is the following. Number one, the reason that Matt Gaetz can easily become the next senator in Florida is that DeSantis, having run against Trump in 2024, is not nearly as popular as J.D. Vance. Great many people think not only was it disloyal, but it was somewhat an example of kicking somebody while they're down. When he ran against Trump, Trump was indicted 1 million times over nonsense, a blatant political or partisan effort at interfering in 24. And I think he even mentioned something about the indictments in a negative light. And so Trump ends up winning the popular vote. And hit subscribe to this channel right now. Paul Bartlett, thank you. To my super chat, thank you so very much, Paul. Thank you. But there is talk of Matt Gaetz becoming senator, and it would help, number two, it would help DeSantis tremendously. And it would help DeSantis surpass J.D. Vance, who is far and away the clear favorite in 2028. So number one, DeSantis lost support among populist Trump Republicans, the majority of the Republican Party, because he decided to run in 24. He had no chance, neither did Nikki Haley. But instead of showing support from the beginning, he said, well, I'm going to see if possibly Trump is actually sentenced to prison. That's not really a good look for 2028. And it also kind of says, all right, there's a part of DeSantis that perhaps is aligned with the never-Trumpers or the establishment or a very corrupt Washington system. Now, I like DeSantis in many ways. I like him. I think he's I think he's anti-endless military conflict, and he wants a great economy, which is what populist Trump, the Trump populist movement is against never-ending military conflict. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. That's how you go from a Bernie Sanders supporter like I was 8 years ago to Trump. You're against endless military conflict. So he could be viewed as an anti-war choice, although we don't really know. It really helps him to nominate or appoint Matt Gaetz. And really quickly, let's listen to Matt Gaetz, and we'll get to exactly why politically, in addition to the fact that he ran in 2024, he shouldn't have, but we'll get to more reasons why Matt Gaetz would propel DeSantis into the forefront for 2028. Check this out.
Many have asked which perch I will be fighting from next. And some of you throughout this conference have even given me a few suggestions. My fellow Floridians have asked me to eye the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Maybe special counsel to go after the insider trading for my former colleagues in Congress. It seems I may not have had enough support in the United States Senate. Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate and join some of those folks. And my friend Steve Bannon and others have suggested that I return to the House of Representatives on January 3rd, but I would remind Steve.
So you hear Gaetz making a reference to becoming the next senator in Florida, okay? This really quickly is President Trump making a reference to a bright future for Matt Gaetz.
I know. I haven't seen it in a little while. Matt Gaetz is here. Where's Matt? He's around here someplace. Matt Gaetz. He's got a big career set up. And just want to say hello to Matt and Arizona GOP Chair Gene.
So, like I said, number one, DeSantis is behind J.D. Vance for 2028. Democrats have nobody. So the only thing they have is if they could personify, or if they could create the embodiment of indignation, outrage, condemnation, pontificating, preaching, lecturing, and distill that into human form, they could get somebody. But all they have now is, oh goodness, Matt Gaetz has an ethics report. Well, what happened to Joe Biden's ethics report? He was accused of something similar / even worse. He was accused of the most despicable criminal activity by Joe Biden, a female, and media descended upon the individual, said, oh, well, if you make a false allegation, you could go to prison or you can go to jail. So Joe Biden was accused. Where was his ethics report by Democratic staffers? Where was the? They were saying that Kavanaugh should withdraw because he was accused. Why didn't Joe Biden withdraw? Bill Clinton. You had George Stephanopoulos going after Nancy Mace with the audacity. He worked for Bill Clinton, who was also accused of the most terrible, criminal, despicable, evil things. Along Joe Biden was accused also by females. Okay, where were the Democrats saying no? We're not gonna stand with this person. So Joe Biden was accused before 24. Bill Clinton was accused before his first presidential run by 3 or 4 individuals, and then eventually by an individual who stated that he committed, the worst possible criminal act. And so Democrats just say, well, that's hearsay, gossip, it's not true. But when it's leveled against Kavanaugh or Matt Gaetz or Trump, then it's true, it's gospel, except George Stephanopoulos and ABC News have to pay $15 million because it's not true. Because what was accused of Trump in the jury was actually not what Stephanopoulos and ABC News accused him of on the air during the Nancy Mace interview. Like I said, George Stephanopoulos is the last person who should pontificate and preach and lecture. He worked for Bill Clinton in his administration. Okay, he might even, can't recall because it was so long ago. He might have been part of trying to cover up or circumvent the allegations against Clinton. But the point is, Democrats live in glass houses. They will never in a million years withdraw any nomination. They will never in a million years recuse themselves for any overt partisanship or conflict of interest. They'll never resign from any attempt at getting a political position. And if they're accused of something, it's 50 intel officials. It's a plot, and 50 intel officials say, well, you know what? You can't accuse the Democrat because it would actually help the Kremlin. So like I said, Joe Biden was accused of a similar or even worse activity than Matt Gaetz. Hunter was accused of allegedly paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, not thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, allegedly, to people who give services in the evening, let's say. So I'm speaking in roundabout terms in a very verbose manner, because I'm speaking algorithmically friendly, but you know what I'm trying to say. They live in glass houses, and then, of course, you have 90s musicians and Democratic donors who are linked to nefarious islands, and you have a Hollywood producer in prison right now, or no, actually, what was that, in New York? That whole thing, he was in prison, or maybe he's still in prison, but they're the epicenter of immorality, Democrats and Hollywood and media and DC and politics, yet they preach and pontificate. They're the atheist version of the 1980s televangelists. But really quickly, if you look, ladies and gentlemen, this is why DeSantis needs Gaetz politically. He needs Gaetz in the Senate, or he needs Gaetz politically. He did all right against Newsom, but Newsom managed to actually score some points. Nicholas! Thank you, Nicholas. Happy New Year to you, Nicholas. Happy New Year, Paul Bartlett. Thank you so much, everybody. To my viewers around the world, Nicholas, thank you. In the UK, thank you, Nicholas, for being a member as well. And Paul Bartlett, thank you so very, very, very much. As always, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you, everybody. Let's get started. So, he didn't do that well. And not only did so the third major point here is that he didn't really do that well against Newsom. He should have done a lot better. On a statewide, within the state of Florida, DeSantis is fantastic. On a national level, not so much. Okay, Newsom, who hasn't done as well as DeSantis, is very comfortable on a national stage, even though he hasn't done nearly as well as DeSantis in Florida. If you have Gaetz as a strong ally of DeSantis, okay, that would help propel him above J.D. Vance. So, and again, there's no evidence that Matt Gaetz did. If there was evidence that he committed a crime, why haven't Democrats indicted and tried to convict him? It's like simple. Okay, this is the caveat here. So nobody takes anything out of context. None of my words should be taken out of context. If Matt Gaetz is guilty, if Joe Biden is guilty, if Hunter or Bill or anyone or Kavanaugh, if anyone's guilty, left or right, they should be sentenced. They should be indicted, imprisoned, and I think that, certain crimes, I think capital punishment is actually very moral, not immoral. I think what Biden did is completely immoral, to commute the capital punishment of people who, ended the lives of bank tellers, but if you commit that crime, and it's viewed as a certain type of crime, so two different types of crimes we won't get into, then capital punishment still applies for Democrats, okay? Which only the Democratic Party could delineate. They're the good, morally virtuous, commuting the sentences for stone-cold individuals who end the lives of normal, everyday people who are just working. But, of course, so removing capital punishment, but the capital punishment remains for certain type of motivations pertaining to that specific crime anyway. I'm not going to get into it because it's a thorny subject at this moment with the algorithm, but Democrats are not against capital punishment. They actually are for capital punishment only for certain, if you just slice and dice the actual crime, which is just totally a liberal thing to do. But anyway, check this out, and you tell me if he's ready for the national stage or if he could defeat J.D. Vance without the help of Matt Gaetz.
Accomplish here is the policies that you both implement have a great impact on the citizens of your individual states. For years, a gallon of gasoline, Governor Newsom in California, has been notably higher in your state than in the state of Florida.
That's right.
Here are the numbers, by the way, recent numbers. The average cost for a gallon of gas nationwide, just over $3.24. In Florida, $3.17. In California, it is a whopping $4.85. So, Governor Newsom, I ask you, you've also sued big oil companies, alleging executives have deceived the public about the health of our planet, knowing that it's a polluter. If your lawsuit is successful, that would likely mean higher gas prices, even higher gas prices for everybody. Here's my question, though. Could you name right now one source of energy that you can bring online in the next 3 to 6 months that would be as inexpensive for the people in this country as fossil fuels?
Well, let me touch.
Can you think of that energy?
Let me touch on I'm going to get to your question. And
so look at the confidence here. He's not going to answer the question. There is no source of energy that can rival the sources of energy that Democrats want to do away with. But look at he's so confident, and he portrayed more confidence than DeSantis. Now, the point is, DeSantis is actually doing better in his state than this man is. The problem, though, is that on a national stage, Matt Gaetz and Congressman Byron Donalds helped DeSantis prepare for a 24 debate. He's not that good on a national stage, DeSantis. Now, if he has a staunch ally and a very influential Trump Republican going into 28, so if he could get DeSantis on board and DeSantis can actually campaign with him for 2028, there's no stopping DeSantis, I don't think. Because I don't think that there's anyone that could stop J.D. Vance. I just don't think there's anyone on the Democratic Party side that could stop J.D. Vance. DeSantis, though, needs a lot of help. Running against Trump was a bad career move for if you want to become a successor to Donald Trump. Okay, it's just a bad career move. So, I mean, it showed almost that you were trying to kick somebody while they were down, while Democrats were typically just indicting and throwing everything at Trump. That's why he won the popular vote, because he wasn't guilty of anything that he was accused of. In fact, the Supreme Court, time and again, sided with Trump. Okay, but see, the way Democrats work, they like the sizzle. They like to sell the sizzle. That's a phrase in sales. There's really nothing there. Oh my God, there's an ethics report. There's an allegation. Oh, and then the same things that are leveled against Hunter or Joe or others, they just ignore. But anyway, let's continue.
Now let me touch the latter part of your question. Let me give the first part of the question.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. Since the 1980s, Republican administrations, Democratic administrations have experienced, under their stewardship, experienced higher gas prices in the state of California. We've been ripped off by big oil. We continue to be ripped off by big oil. Big oil now has met a new foe, and that's the state of California, the most aggressive anti-gouging law in America, more transparency being required.
So this is how Democrats explained or tried to justify Biden's economic policies. Well, you know, these big giant companies were taking advantage of people. And you can see how kind of comfortable he is talking to everybody. The reality is that Biden, within his first couple of months, was sued by oil and gas associations. One oil and gas association and 10, 12 states for his policies on energy. The Biden administration was literally sued by oil-producing states. And within the lawsuits, they said, okay, yeah, by the way, your policies are going to increase inflation. But anyway, let's continue. But of course, it's all about the corporations, who, by the way, many of whom, or CEOs or lobbyists, give a great deal to the Democratic Party. So
required than any time in America. And yes, we're suing the industry responsible for this climate crisis. By the way, the same climate crisis that Ron DeSantis celebrated as human caused, who campaigned for a fracking ban, who campaigned to oppose offshore oil drilling, and then 2 days after he got elected, signed an executive order. By the way, Nikki Haley had you dead to right on this, Ron. Signed an executive order doubling down, saying you're adamantly opposed to fracking, adamantly opposed to offshore oil drilling. You were celebrated by the Sierra Club.
Nikki Haley had you all the way, you know. Oh. And so, again, Newsom is very good. Well, I wouldn't say good. I would say comfortable. All right? Comfortable. All right? So DeSantis has done better within his state, respectively. But you can see it's not really that comfortable. So, again, he could use Gaetz. He could use Matt Gaetz in the Senate to gather that momentum and support, that political support from Matt Gaetz in the Senate would be, just monumental for DeSantis going into 28, possibly helping him surpass J.D. Vance.
For that action until you weren't. Once again, it shows the hypocrisy of Ron DeSantis. Now you're running away from climate change as things have gotten worse. Hurricanes, wildfires, droughts, and floods. $179 billion of weather-related disasters. And he has no response except talking points from big oil.
Governor Newsom.
That was a mouthful. Again, just more lies. But here's the thing: California is the only one that oil companies are gouging. Why aren't they doing that to Georgia or Florida or these other states that have lower gas prices? Because of their policies. That's why people are paying more there. What Gavin Newsom wants to do, what he's doing in California, what Biden wants to do nationally, is government-dictated green energy policies. They want to kneecap fossil fuels and reliable energy. We've already seen what's happened in California. They have rolling blackouts. He actually implemented a mandate to buy electric vehicles. So pretty soon in California, you're not going to be able to buy a normal car, only electric vehicles. And they celebrated that as like a great thing. A couple days later, there was a notice from the state government telling all EV owners, do not plug in your EV because they don't have enough grid capacity. So he is walking his people into a big time disaster. What Biden wants to do is he wants to take the California model. He wants to impose that nationally. He wants to take away your ability to purchase the car that you want. He wants to kneecap reliable energy. And he wants to bring these rolling blackouts all across the United States of America. It doesn't work. It's going to cause huge problems. We have more energy here. We can be the dominant energy producer in the world.
Florida,
and that's what we're going to do. Florida is not a big energy state. We have the Marcellus Shale. We have the West Texas. We have all of that. So let's do that. No forcing electric vehicles.
We got to take a break.
Save the American automobile.
When we come back, we'll continue the great state, red state, blue state.
So DeSantis gets him on substance, but I'm not so sure that, on a national level or national stage, that he's that comfortable. Okay. DeSantis is going to have to defend running against Trump at a time when Trump needed, a tremendous amount of support. Okay. So I'm just thinking out loud in terms of 2028, and some people have asked in the comment, one or two out of hundreds in the comment section, well, H.A. Goodman, why are you talking about Matt Gaetz? Like, why are you kind of repeating the same topic? And it's like, well, he's interesting. He's an interesting discussion. It's an interesting, intriguing topic, especially when Democrats think they've scored this last-minute touchdown. See, the Democratic Party or media, everyone who opposes Trump thinks that, like, the ethics report with Matt Gaetz is the greatest thing to ever happen to the Democratic Party. It's like, well, you lost the popular vote, every battleground state, the Senate, the House, the presidency, and you don't have the Supreme Court because of that, because you pontificate and preach and lecture about morality. When there's an ethics report written about Matt Gaetz, but there's not an ethics report written about Hunter or Joe Biden or others. Like I said, Joe Biden 4 years ago, before the lead up to November of 4 years ago, when Joe Biden defeated Trump and then promptly less than 4 years later was ousted and removed by his own political party for Harris, who polled lower than Biden and apparently didn't have to win a primary. So they don't even the reason the Democrats lost miserably is they don't even have functioning primaries. They don't even have functioning primaries. It's a complete farce. They just say, oh, yes, this person won all of these states. That's our true nominee. And what they did to Bernie Sanders is nothing compared to what they did to Biden. Biden actually won a primary, and there was one debate, and then he was removed and ousted, like yesterday's news. I mean, this is the most popular candidate of all time, isn't he? How do you go from the most popular candidate of all time to being completely ousted and usurped by your vice president after one debate performance? How on earth does that happen? I don't know. If you're a morally superior liberal Democrats, please explain. How does that happen? How do you reconcile the two? He's the most popular candidate, maybe even more popular than President Obama of all time, but one debate 3 years later. And so then you have all the people who said, all the pundits who lied through their teeth, all the people who said, oh, there's nothing wrong from a cognitive level. Oh, Biden is he's actually sharper than Trump. He actually has greater cognitive ability. Again, these are the same people jumping up for joy with the ethics report. It's like, the context, again, if Matt Gaetz is guilty, then indict him. Then convict him. If Democrats had evidence that he committed a crime, then convict him. What Gaetz should do is release all the information on all the secret, hidden funding and financing. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow. Linked to Democrats and Republicans who wanted to hide lawsuit settlements. But let's listen to Matt Gaetz's full. Let's listen to his full speech right here.
And I view it greatly as a validation of the choice that the voters in Northwest Florida made over and over again to send me to fight for them. But some things don't go according to plan. Matter of fact, one of my Republican colleagues said to me as I had been nominated, Matt, if you leave the Republican conference in the House of Representatives and go to the Department of Justice, we actually think you can improve the quality of both institutions. But I saw the writing on the wall and that my nomination would cause a delay of the important work that we see ahead. And that is because there remain anti-Trump forces within the Republican conference in the United States Senate. And President Trump needs an attorney general on day one. And I just assumed when I withdrew my nomination, looking at everyone else who had been attorney general, that I would be replaced by someone less attractive. But instead we got Pam Bondi, who is brilliant and lovely, who is talented and courageous, who is creative and bold. Pam Bondi will be a phenomenal attorney general for President Trump. She has my support and all of ours, and we're going to do everything to see that the mission is accomplished. But the DOJ must change. It must end weaponization of our government. It must facilitate rather than frustrate the largest deportation in American history. It must stop the unlawful surveillance of our fellow Americans. And it must punish the companies involved in the transport, manufacturing, and distribution of fentanyl. And most importantly, on day one, the Department of Justice has to be ready to pardon the non-violent January 6 defendants who were abused by a two-tier justice system. Pam will do these things. We must get her confirmed, and as we look at these Senate confirmations, I must say, I think I moved the Overton window just a bit. The Senate must confirm Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., and perhaps most importantly, my good friend for the next FBI director, Kash Patel. Republican senators should be ashamed of themselves if they believe the Hillary Clinton lie that somehow Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian agent. I care far more that Tulsi Gabbard.
I love Tulsi Gabbard. And anyone who dislikes Tulsi Gabbard because of what Clinton or Democrats said about her, they're just believing lies. You talk about defamation. Like she should have. Actually, she did for a second, but I can't imagine how Hillary Clinton would have won a defamation suit. There's zero evidence that Tulsi Gabbard or that Trump himself was linked to the Kremlin in any way, shape, or form. There's zero evidence. Like John Brennan said in congressional testimony, I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. And so it's like you have Democratic voters believing in complete lies and fantasy, and a very sad, pathetic, and hilarious and completely irrational political logic. Anyone who disagrees with the Democratic Party is helping the Kremlin. And anything that's corrupt within the Democratic Party, if you know about that, it's actually a Kremlin plot. And they've been going back to that, well, since 2016. And it's like everything bad that took place, if you want to talk about invasions, took place during Biden's administration. I don't think the former Cold War adversary cares about Democrats, or I should say current adversary, on the world stage. I don't think the Kremlin is so frightened of the Democratic Party. All of these terrible things have taken place during Biden's watch. Not during Trump's, by the way, but during President Obama and Bush. We can go on forever. But let's continue. I mean, you have to ask yourself, how did Democrats go from the 80s want their foreign policy back with President Obama, disparaging Romney for being a hawk against the Kremlin? How did they go from President Obama and Clinton pressing a big reset button? They wanted a reset of relations for that country in 2008. Same thing in 2012. And then we know from the DNC emails that Clinton wanted Trump. So I guess the Clinton campaign's interests coincided directly with the Kremlin's interests. And then they go from 8 years of a different foreign policy to, oh my God, we're the JFK Cold Warriors. How does that happen? Because anything that is filtered through the Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, the edgiest most left-leaning socialist and communist pundit or progressive pundit will repeat. It's like that meme, I'm for whatever is popular, the next new thing. They'll just do the exact thing they're told. If Liz Cheney became a Democrat and she was the nominee, they'd vote for Liz Cheney. Paul Barton, thank you again. And Nicholas, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. And hit subscribe if you're new. But it's like what Clinton said about Tulsi Gabbard was despicable. Tulsi Gabbard is a very courageous, very noble, very honorable human being. In fact, one of her first acts as a congresswoman was to try and find a way to bring peace to a very tumultuous region of the world that has less peace than ever, that is engulfed in chaos right now under Biden's watch. And so again, when anyone deviates from the Democratic Party's ideology, you're not loyal anymore, you've blasphemed, you're excommunicated. If you committed heresy, you will be excommunicated. If you committed blasphemy, you say, oh, Trump ain't so bad, you will never be spoken to again. You'll have lifelong friends disown you. That's how Democrats roll, as they call Trump supporters a cult. It's like, no. The popular vote, without any media support, without any Hollywood support, without any music industry support, the popular vote is Trump. I was telling you who's going to win for the past 4 years. The extreme, the political ideology that doesn't resonate with the majority of Americans is the Democratic Party's ideology. Okay, you had Harris's campaign paying celebrities and paying people. You didn't need to pay anybody to get support from, you know, the biggest YouTubers and biggest, you know, celebrities out there. You didn't have to pay to support Trump, but you had to pay people to get support for Harris in many cases.
We'll clean up the deep state, tell the truth, and keep America out of forever wars. And while it is a little odd, I don't particularly care that RFK Jr. may have killed a bear or texted back a thirsty reporter. I care far more that RFK Jr. will stop big pharma and big food and big chemical companies from killing our fellow Americans through poison. And it is offensive to me that Republican senators want to tweeze through the life of Pete Hegseth when they haven't lifted a finger in many cases for the lives of the 8,600 patriots who were purged from the Department of Defense as the consequence of an unlawful vaccine mandate. I won't rest, Hegseth won't rest, and Donald Trump will not rest until those patriots are welcomed back with their full rank and back pay. Republican senators, we, the voters of this movement, will not accept the answer that you voted for Joe Biden's nominees, like Lloyd Austin, but refused Trump's. Politics will encounter more accountability these days. We just saw it last week. Last week, every lobbyist in Washington, D.C. wanted this 1,500-page bill to pass with billions of dollars in pork, with the funding of the censorship industrial complex, with the funding of bio labs and foreign aid that do not serve America's interests. They had all the wind at their back. They had backed us up against the Christmas break, and thanks to Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Turning Point and the millions of people who are mobilized on X, we defeated the bill of the lobbyists, and we are ready to march on with America First agenda. And the Democrats, they just don't get it. They continue to criticize Elon Musk as if he is acting in self-interest, when we all see that Elon is acting alongside President Trump in the national interest. And we
don't you just love the new CNN line, the talking point for Democrats? Oh, is Elon Musk's foreign business dealings a national security, dilemma? It's like foreign business dealings had to used to correlate to the Clinton, to what the Clintons were doing, or Joe Biden and Hunter's laptop, where there's obvious bribery and graft. See, Trump, billionaire. Casinos, resorts, real estate, The Apprentice, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, a whole tech companies before that. So Musk, see, the reason Musk and Trump are billionaires is because they worked hard within business. They were capitalists. The reason Hunter and Joe, or I should say the likely reason, potentially, Democrats, certain Democrats, potentially, possibly, have made millions is not because they had a business. You can look at Whitewater, and you can look at being on the board of directors of a shady energy company. It's not because these Democrats actually own businesses. They very likely traded their status for business deals. That, in addition to a plethora of emails and suspicious activity reports. I mean, an endless amount of that, where banks said, oh yeah, by the way, the Bidens are engaged in an international financial or domestic financial transaction that is deemed problematic. Where are the activity reports for Trump and Musk? The banks are just fine. Banks will lend Musk and Trump $1 billion tomorrow. There's not a bank on the planet that will lend, even $100 million to the Democrats in question. Probably not even 10 million. So the question is, the foreign business dealings that were addressed or linked to that laptop, allegedly linked to that laptop that 50 Intel officials lied about. Okay, you have potential bribery and graft linked to Democrats, Democratic Party politicians, and Tammany Hall used to call this honest graft. Okay, they've been trading access to government and cashing in on potential, this illegal form of potential bribery and graft since the 1800s, late 1800s in Tammany Hall. In fact, that's what they used to call it, honest graft. But I love that. So what they're guilty of, they then say, well, what about you? It's like, what? They just twist everything. It's hilarious. That's why they lost the popular vote.
We have something now that we've never had before. We have the ability to lash the resources that Elon is committed to with the energy and the mobilization and the infrastructure built by Charlie Kirk and animated by Turning Point Patriots in chapters all over America. Many have asked which perch I will be fighting from next. And some of you throughout this conference have even given me a few suggestions. My fellow Floridians have asked me to eye the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Maybe special counsel to go after the insider trading for my former colleagues in Congress. It seems I may not have had enough support in the United States Senate. Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate and join some of those folks.
So maybe he makes a play for the vacant seat. He talked about that. The ethics report initially was going to be withheld. Now it's released. Again, if there's evidence he committed a crime, then I'm all for indicting and convicting and prosecuting a Democrat or Republican in a criminal court, not in a defamation case. That's why George Stephanopoulos and ABC News paid $15 million. Okay? But ladies and gentlemen, this is the second live stream today. We're going to ramp things up. We are on our way, by the way, to 270,000 subscribers. And I think DeSantis, if he wants to make waves for 28, he's not going to. He's a good governor. Florida's a red state. Trump turned Florida red. Okay, Trump single-handedly revitalized and redefined the Republican Party. Like he did. I just love these people. Trump's personality. It's like, well, who do you think is a better person? George W. Bush? Who? Mitt Romney? Trump is. I can't stand when people say Trump's a narcissist. Oh, but Biden is an altruistic person who ran for the good of the country. That poor man was catapulted to the most powerful position on the planet. And we'll just say Democrats decided less than 4 years later that he wasn't up for the task. How does that work? Did Democrats actually catapult somebody who from day one was not up to it? And you want to talk about narcissism? Why didn't he, for the good of the country, say, yeah, you know what? I'm not up for the task. Well, actually, in his defense, he that's the whole thing with Jill and Harris. They it's so convoluted. He didn't want to leave, but they forced him out. Okay, and it's like the narcissism is on the Democratic Party side, not Trump. The whole thing with Trump is that they take a brash, vibrant person who is confident. They turn that into, oh my God, their sensibilities are so malleable, are always malleable. So the way they view decency, is a decent man. Biden's a decent man. Well, then why did you kick him out in favor of somebody who polled lower than Biden? Harris had lower poll numbers than Biden. Why did they remove Biden? Oh, that's right. They don't even have a primary. That's the height of narcissism, to just tell everyone, yeah, he won his primary, and then just remove him. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. I think it would help DeSantis immeasurably to help to appoint Gaetz in the vacated seat. If they had anything on Matt Gaetz, they would have already came out and indicted him. Call their bluff. That's why, I mean, look, in a way, I thought, you know, it was probably always the plan, or, you know, it was always the strategy to move the Overton window or whatever Gaetz mentioned, that make it, oh, well, Pam Bondi's infinitely better than Gaetz, okay, and just frighten the you-know-what out of everyone with Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. But the Senate, the Republican Party, DeSantis, Trump, everyone benefits with Gaetz as senator. Again, if he's guilty, then convict him. Democrats, but he's not guilty because he's very likely not guilty. I shouldn't say not. He's very likely, almost certainly not guilty, because these are allegations that were never, where evidence was never compiled to form an indictment. And again, call their bluff. When Democrats go all in and they don't hold any cards, then you get the Supreme Court victory over Colorado. Then you get Trump winning the popular vote. They're going all in with this Matt Gaetz thing. DeSantis should call their bluff. And that will help DeSantis immeasurably in 28 to overcome J.D. Vance. I don't think there's anyone that can stop J.D. Vance at this moment. I pray to God AOC runs. That would be fantastic. You'll have 2 back-to-back Trump Republican popular vote wins. Hit subscribe, people. I love you all. Paul Bartlett, I can't thank you enough, sir, in Australia. Nicholas Orm, thank you for being a member and for all your support always. And to my super chat, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. We'll do 2 live streams every day, and we'll ramp it up probably to 3, hopefully soon. Thanks, everybody.